Hey everybody, it's Minius, and about 11 months ago, while we were still pretty much completely in the dark about the next Mass Effect game, I asked 12 big questions I had about Mass Effect Andromeda. And now that the game is almost here, and many new people are just turning their eyes on it, I figured I'd ask those big questions again. But this time with answers. Because we've gotten solid information on 11 of those 12 questions, 7 of which have been answered outright, and answering them to the best of my ability should serve as a pretty good FAQ about Mass Effect Andromeda. So let's get started. How do we get from Mass Effect 3 to Mass Effect Andromeda? Specifically, I mean, how do Mass Effect Andromeda and the Mass Effect trilogy go together? Logically. Mass Effect 3's endings are fragmented and therefore difficult to make a sequel to, so the answer is they're bypassing the third game entirely. The expedition to Andromeda leaves before the third game even starts, officially before the Arrival DLC for Mass Effect 2. So that means that anything that happens in the third game is irrelevant to Mass Effect Andromeda. It also means that pretty much any character who can show up in Mass Effect 3 won't be in the new game. And pretty much every character from the trilogy was in Mass Effect 3, so don't expect to see any familiar faces. What Milky Way races will make it to Andromeda? Given how close we are to launch, I expected to have a lot more information on this, because at this point, only 5 Milky Way species are confirmed, and I mean sapient alien species. Pyjaks are not sapient, so they don't count. Let's take a look at the newly updated chart, which has every sapient alien from the Mass Effect series containing what I think is their likelihood to show up in this new game. The humans, Krogan, Solarian, Asari, and Turians are all confirmed for Mass Effect Andromeda, but after that, things get rough. Because what about the Quarians? They are specifically unconfirmed at this point. Developers refuse to answer questions about it, and I can think of only 2 good reasons for that. 1, they aren't in this game. And if this is the case, BioWare probably should have gotten this news out of the way at this point, because it's always a good idea to get bad news out of the way early, but I am not in charge of their marketing. 2, there is a Quarian reveal coming up intending to blow people's minds and drive up excitement for this game. And my guess is that that is the answer. But with every day, that outcome becomes less likely. And that's the same for every other race on this list. One thing that might impact this list going forward, or for DLC, is that according to BioWare Brass, they left the door open for more species to come along. I don't know how this would work logically, and actually, that logic has me a bit concerned, but it could be that every single one of the species on this list will come to the Andromeda galaxy at some point.
You are correct.
How will the jump pack impact combat in Mass Effect Andromeda? Now, this is something we're going to need to get our hands on the game for to really answer, but a simple guess is a lot. You can already see that in gameplay reveals. First of all, you can shoot and use abilities while in the air, and just that alone has the potential to change combat a lot. You know, being able to jump over cover to launch attacks. But it will also have a huge impact when it comes to evasion. And this jump pack is not just a jump pack. You can dodge and move with biotics too. Mobility is a huge feature in all of the gameplay we've seen. Certain enemies, like this nullifier here, will telegraph its attacks, which implies that many of these enemies are designed with the dodge mechanic in mind. Perhaps the most important question now is, will this movement feel good? And that's definitely something we'll need the game for. Will Mass Effect Andromeda be the first in a series? This question was specifically dodged by Mac Walters when he was asked, so the official answer is maybe? It might be a one-off, it might be a trilogy, it might be a loosely connected series like Dragon Age. They want to keep their options open. Now, there's no way that the powerful people within BioWare and Electronic Arts don't want to make a sequel. Sequels are generally much easier to make and ultimately can bring in much more money than their predecessors. But BioWare appears to be keeping their options open. And the reason why is that this game is not a 100% guaranteed slam dunk success. The divisive Mass Effect 3 endings pretty much assures that. But if the game sells well, I'm sure they'll want to do another. How will gear be distributed in Mass Effect Andromeda multiplayer? pretty much in the exact same way that it was done in Mass Effect 3's multiplayer, by purchasing packs of randomness with earned currency. And I'm not really sure I'm excited about this, but I couldn't think of a much better way to do things, especially given how the current system negates the impact of microtransactions. There will be an additional way to get gear. You can buy a specific item directly, but from a store with a limited stock that rotates on a regular basis. So there is a way to get at least okay gear without depending solely on luck, although we'll have to see exactly how good that store's stock is. Will you be able to continue with your game after you finish the story? Basically, I want to know if you can explore and do side quests after you finish the main campaign, and the answer is yes. Keep in mind you couldn't do that in the original Mass Effects or in Mass Effect 3, although there was a good reason for that. But I love continuing and examining the world state after I finish a game, and I'm probably more excited about this than I should be, because in gaming, that's pretty common. But I'm going to give this at least 6 thumbs up. There is more though. Like each of the previous Mass Effects, there will be a version of New Game Plus where you can carry over your level and do another playthrough, only this time you can gender swap. If you played your first playthrough as Bro Rider, you can continue your progress with Cis Rider or vice versa. This will allow you to keep working on your overall progress while getting an entirely new view of the game. What is the threat in Mass Effect Andromeda? At least one of the threats are these guys, called the Ket. Now, officially, we don't know a whole lot about them. You can dive into earlier leaks if you want to know more, but the most recent cinematic trailer makes it pretty clear that they are working against you. And developer tweets imply that they are unified in that idea. As to them being the only threat, we're going to have to play the game to know for sure. The Reapers were the main threat in the trilogy, and their existence was only hinted about before the release of the original trilogy.
Ah yes, Reapers. The immortal race of sentient starships allegedly waiting in dark space. We have dismissed that claim.
What is the need to go to Andromeda in the first place? And the key word here is need. From the explanation we've been given, the answer is there isn't one. These colonists are heading to Andromeda to explore, and as appealing as that might be, it is not necessary to explore that far out. Fun maybe, but not necessary. I hope there is more to this expedition than simply exploring far away. I've got an earlier video where I speculate on additional motives, and there is a link to that video in the description box. But if there isn't an additional need, that means that they're going to Andromeda simply to avoid the Mass Effect 3 endings, which is a little disappointing. Is the journey to Andromeda a one-way trip? It's supposed to be. Jeanne Garson, the lady leading this expedition, says it is. Of course, the full purpose of this expedition, according to the Andromeda Initiative briefings, is to gather resources and return to the Milky Way. They never gave a timetable on how long this would take, and who knows if it's actually plausible. There is a solid chance, though, that if you are an Asari or a Krogan, you will live long enough to get back, but any return to the Milky Way is going to take a while. The journey to Andromeda takes around 600 years, which is only possible due to cryostasis. If the plan is to return in the same way, that's at least 1,200 years until anyone can return. But the biggest issue with returning is continuity. If BioWare wants to avoid making any ending canon, like they've said, then there cannot be any returning to the Milky Way. Will the new Mako work? This question is impossible to answer until we play the game extensively. Also, the answer to this question is going to be a matter of opinion, because by work I mean, will the game benefit from the inclusion of the Nomad? And I think there's a really good chance that the original Mass Effect would have been better if the Mako wasn't in it and the levels were designed to be tackled on foot, but then again, that is an opinion. A lot of this is going to depend on how these open areas are designed and what there is to do in them, but ultimately this answer might be different for everybody.
This one is unworthy.
Are we going to be able to avoid console-exclusive content for Mass Effect Andromeda? It really looks like it. There is a connection between Mass Effect Andromeda and PlayStation, but it's the most muted console tie-in campaign I've ever seen for a AAA title. If there is going to be exclusive content, why isn't Sony bragging about it? This game is a month out. We did get a quote from Mass Effect producer Mike Gamble about the subject. There is wiggle room in his quote, but like I said, it really looks like you will be able to get every bit of Mass Effect Andromeda, no matter what platform you are playing on, at exactly the same time. So that's like 8 thumbs up. When is Mass Effect Andromeda coming out? It took way too long to get a solid answer on this, but the answer is Mass Effect Andromeda is coming March 21st. Or March 23rd, depending on where you are located. We need to review all of that. It will be out Tuesday, March 21st in Canada, Greater China, most of Latin America, Mexico, Russia, Southeast Asia, and the United States. But it's Thursday, March 23rd in Africa, Australia, Brazil, Europe, Israel, Japan, Southwest Asia, and New Zealand. If you don't see your country or region on here, let me know, and I'll ask the powers that be for a better answer. But I'm sure that some of you are wondering, why 2 dates? The official answer is, it has to do with gaming retailers. The in-store ones. Now, I'm not sure why retailers in different locations insist on releasing games on 2 different days. Maybe it has to do with sales in those regions, maybe it's a convention, but it forces some of you to wait, and that just flat out sucks. At the moment, none of the gaming companies have a large enough quad to release the game in line with other regions digitally, because if you can buy the game digitally before stores have it, that will piss those retailers off, and generally that's bad for business. But hopefully, this multi-date thing will end very soon. But if you can't wait, you can get early access of Mass Effect Andromeda for 10 hours starting on Thursday, March 16th on PC and Xbox One. So that mostly answers the 12 biggest questions I had heading into Mass Effect Andromeda. If you want to check out my original video, there's a link in the description box. But now that we know some stuff, we have more questions. I think the original video is due for a sequel, so let me know what are your biggest questions heading into the new Mass Effect. And if you like this video, please give it a like. It really helps out the channel. Keep an eye on MiniSGC for more Mass Effect videos. But for now...
I should go.
Ha ha ha!